finally here, you guys. My greatest success story. This is a story of how a Bronx girl who was born into poverty, a heroin addict father, a abusive mother, and a dysfunctional family in the South Bronx, known as the poorest congressional district of the United States, and how she somehow managed to take all of that and visit 22 countries and 5 continents. It is a long time coming, but I'm so excited to share 10 years of accumulated knowledge and wisdom and insight from my times traveling. So 2026 marks my 10-year anniversary of leaving the United States for the first time and studying abroad in the Pacific Islands, specifically Samoa. I did also visit Fiji and Australia during that time, but this series entirely is all about my 10 years of accumulated wisdom and experience from all my travels across 5 continents and 22 countries. I am so excited to bring this information to you guys. It has been such a long journey of trials and tribulations, spiritual warfare. There have been so many different things trying to stop me from getting this story out there, but today I stand here in alignment with Source, in alignment with the Most High, and I know that my path is divinely anointed and that I am here to tell this story to inspire someone else to leave their hometown, to rise out of whatever circumstances that they're in, and to believe that they have access to travel no matter what your economic status is, no matter what your zip code is. You can do it, because if I can be born into the poorest congressional district of the United States and manage to go to 5 continents and 22 countries through a series of fellowships and scholarships, then you can do it too, okay? And this series is all about how I made that happen, what I learned, and how you can empower yourself to have a similar journey or a journey of your own. So I'm really excited to launch my travel series called Checked Baggage. Checked Baggage is a very important series to me because it's more than just a travel series. This is a blueprint, it's a survival guide for those of us who know that we were born for a higher purpose, who feel that our hometown has been keeping us a prisoner to old programming and old beliefs and stereotypes that just don't feel in alignment with who we are. And if you're anything like me, you're a global soul, you're a multidimensional being, you believe in expansion and freedom and spiritual sovereignty, then this series and this channel is absolutely for you. And if you're just a travel junkie who is really curious about travel, or if you're someone who's really scared about travel and nervous, believe me, I was too, and now it's like all I can think about. Every episode after today's episode is going to take you on a chronological journey of all of the countries that I've been to in chronological order and really unpacking everything that I learned. So please subscribe right now, because you do not want to miss all these episodes that I'm about to drop, because it's about to be so lit. All that to say, let's jump right in and talk more about the series and who I am and why this is important. So 10 years ago, I left the United States for the first time, and I made the best decision of my life. I've gathered a lot of information, so get ready for over a dozen episodes from each country that I went to, everything that I learned from those countries, the highs and the lows and the pitfalls and all of the beauty. I believe that right now, in a world that is extremely divided, we need more people who are talking about how actually connected we all are. My unique soul journey is to be the unifier, to be the bridge. I come from a very dysfunctional household, a very dysfunctional community, and for some reason I kept my heart open and pure to a life that could be better, and that's exactly what I got. And so to have access to travel, it was so healing for me, and my journey with travel has transformed, and I have transformed. I am not the same person that I was 10 years ago when I first got on a plane to go study abroad in the Pacific Islands, okay? Checked Baggage is my series, and it's all about the baggage that I've had to carry with me during my travel, and how travel actually helped me to sort through that baggage, because I didn't realize it, but at some point during my travel journey, I discovered that I was running from my trauma. I grew up in the South Bronx. It's a very poor and tough place to grow up. I saw a lot of pain, a lot of dysfunction, and I just wanted to get away from that. I didn't want to have to sort through the pain of, coming from a very dysfunctional, broken bloodline. It was a lot. And so I used travel as a form of escapism until my trauma really caught up with me, because one thing about life is that your trauma is always going to catch up to you. That's not to say that you are your trauma, but it has played a role in who you are, and it's up to you to decide how much of a role that continues to play in your life through integrating it, through processing, through doing your shadow work, through doing your healing. And so travel was able to do that for me, and I'm able to sit back and look at the gift that travel has given me, which is self-awareness and empowerment. I know I came here as a volunteer to assist with raising the vibration of the planet through telling my story and empowering whoever my story resonates with. This channel is about uniting people across borders, across religions, across faiths. And if you believe in love as the center of all things, then this is the place for you. But yeah, so my name is Phoenix, and I want to start off this series with a letter that I wrote to myself back in 2015. Okay, this was written on February 4th, 2015. Okay, I wrote, "Dear self, I know what you're thinking. What the hell did I get myself into? Well, don't be afraid. This is what you wanted, so here is some advice. Expect to be uncomfortable, but never confuse uncomfort with fear. You have nothing to fear, as you are right where you need to be. Be brave, be optimistic, and for once, take your own advice. You fell in love with Samoa for all the right reasons. Remember why you chose Samoa and allow that to guide your experience. Look to God for comfort, as well as your peers and everyone else in your study abroad program. Believe that you are not alone. Know and believe that this experience will allow you to become a better person. This is only the beginning and a stepping stone for you to continue to be creative and make the most of this experience. Have faith in yourself, God and your peers, and the Samoan people. Understand that you are taking a risk, but you will be in good hands. Remember to immerse yourself in the culture and live in the present. Everything happens for a reason, and God has sent you to Samoa to tell stories and to hear stories. Remember the importance of the exchange of knowledge. Lastly, ask questions and learn from the answers. Relax, you'll be fine. Love yourself." So I wrote that to myself a year before getting on a plane for the first time, and to look back on that, it's really, really incredible. So I just love that I saved that letter for myself and I have it in my journal. So yeah, I just wanted to start off with that so that you guys could see that I was terrified, so scared that I literally got a tattoo before leaving of a cross on my wrist. At the time, I did grow up Catholic. I'm not Catholic anymore, by the way, but I had got a cross on my wrist, because I had heard a voice. It sounded like my higher self or God or, some angel. When I was in my dorm, really, really paranoid about leaving. I was really scared. And the voice was just like, "You're gonna be okay." It was so crazy. I was like, oh my God, did I just hear God? I had never experienced that before. So I ran and got a tattoo on my wrist, which I did cover up now. I have an ankh now, but yeah. So I just want to start off with, why did I choose Samoa, the Pacific Islands, and what was that experience like? So I went to Marist College. Funny enough, no one at my school had ever studied abroad in Samoa, which was another reason why I was so nervous, because I didn't have anything to go off of. I didn't have any classmates, any peers, any alumni who had been there. I didn't know anybody who had been there. So I was scared. I was like, I don't know what to expect. I don't know what's gonna happen, but I want to go there. And I've just always been very drawn to indigenous culture. I've always been drawn to the ocean, and Samoa has a very, very deep relationship with the ocean. Moana, literally the movie. Going to Samoa definitely activated my spiritual journey for sure, because I was not as spiritual as I am now prior to going to that country. And so I did a program called the Pacific Communities and Social Change. The Pacific Communities and Social Change program, offered by the School for International Training, is a study abroad experience based in Samoa, focusing on how Pacific Island cultures adapt to globalization, climate change, development, modernization, and exploring themes like cultural values, resilience, indigenous knowledge through fieldwork, homestays, lectures in Samoa and Fiji. It's part of SIT's critical global issues framework, providing students with a interdisciplinary look at social and environmental transitions in Oceania. So that is basically what I did. I was studying in the Pacific Islands, and I just want to kind of touch on briefly how I afforded the trip, because I know that study abroad is something that folks do have to either save for, apply for scholarships, or take out loans for. And I was fortunate enough to have my entire college experience and my study abroad journey fully funded by the Gates Millennium Scholarship, so Bill Gates and his wife, and that's how I was able to afford it. But there are other scholarships. There's the Gilman Scholarship, I believe, that support study abroad. And I just want to touch on like some of the major takeaways because it's a lot of information. But Samoa is a small community. It was a super small island. It's super remote. Like I said, it's all the way in the middle of the ocean, the Pacific Ocean, you know, so it's very remote. I didn't really have strong access to Wi-Fi. Unlike here, we have high-speed Wi-Fi. Over there, I remember like laying in my bed and having my phone in my hand, and I'm just like holding it to the ceiling trying to get Wi-Fi. Okay, like that's how serious it was sometimes. There were internet cafes that had a lot better access to Wi-Fi, but like on campus, it was actually really hard for me to get Wi-Fi. The actual capital, Apia, is where I was, and that has about 36,000 people. So not a lot of people. I remember the biggest thing was like the cultural immersion and the language barrier. People there do speak Samoan. They do speak English, but majority of them speak Samoan. So when we landed, I actually did not have a regular traditional American name because some letters in the Samoan alphabet don't exist the way that the letters in our alphabet do, in the English alphabet. So I had a whole different name out there in Samoa. I went by Tara. That was my name. And it was cool. Like I actually enjoyed like that. Like it felt even more immersive. It was like I'm not even like my own name, you know, like I'm going by a whole different name here. Like it was really cool, and I really enjoyed like being thrown into the culture like that. One of the highlights from my time was my homestay. I had never had a homestay before, right? I grew up, like I said, in the Bronx. I've lived with the same people my whole life, but moving to Samoa, I did have a roommate who also was from the Bronx, so that was pretty cool. But we did have a homestay for a portion of the program, and that's where I really learned about the Fa'a Samoa, which is like the Samoan way of life. And it's really this overarching philosophy of community and collective well-being. They're very communal in Samoa. They really care about taking care of their people and being united with each other, which was very different from me because I grew up in America, which is very like individualistic, you know, it's kind of like every man for himself out here. I also got a lot of exposure to like the traditional cultural values of cooking. They do have these ovens in Samoa called umus, and these are like outdoor ovens that they make. The men put them together and the women are the ones who prepare the food and cook it all. And their culture in general is very beautiful. A rich culture of dancing and singing and body art and initiations and rites of passage through tattooing, which was incredible. It's called a tatau. That is the like traditional name of tattoos in Samoa, but not everyone gets to get the traditional like tattoo. You have to be part of like the certain chief's family. Like if you're like the chief's daughter, or if you're like the son and you're gonna become a chief, like it's a rite of passage for you to get these tattoos. A lot of places, due to colonization, tattooing was banned, right? Through the missionaries coming on and introducing Christianity, these things were banned, but in Samoa it prevailed, and that was really beautiful to see. The Suluapes are one of only 2 Samoan families who are authorized by tradition to create tattoos in accordance with customs, and I was able to get tattooed by members of the Suluape family, which was really nice. And it's funny because getting this tattoo actually foreshadowed my own spiritual journey, and it really activated after this trip. Like travel definitely opened me up spiritually. Like I still am like sitting here processing it all, but you know, I went through a deep spiritual awakening a few months after coming back to the United States. And I remember when I got my Samoan tattoo, I had told my tattoo artist that I wanted something that represented pain and endurance, because that's all I ever knew, right? Like it's so Phoenix coded for me to be like, give me a tattoo that represents pain and endurance. But he ended up drawing something really beautiful, and it had a collection of Samoan symbols in it, and each symbol represented something different. And so I've always been spiritual, technically. It runs in my blood on both sides, but I just didn't have the consciousness to understand it. However, Samoa really helped me to integrate that, and you know, through studying abroad, it was a highly spiritual experience for me. Like I had never done this before. So this is from April 27th, 2016, my journal. This was me kind of processing the tattoo that I got. Listening to the tapping of tools was helpful, but not nearly as helpful as I thought. I felt so tense and in the worst pain I've ever had to tolerate. It was as if I was being beaten with a bat or having a hammer slammed down into my ribs. It was the worst feeling I had ever felt. It was a great honor to have this family give me a tattoo. Nobody will understand what it's like to be lying down and to have people fanning you and not being able to look because of how humiliating and shameful it would be if you back down. I am not sure if Tara was the one who endured the tattoo or if it was me. Either way, I am not the same. I did something that many Samoans have had to do in order to prove themselves in their leadership and respect and bravery and pride for their family. I am learning to accept pain. I love my tattoo and all the meanings. So one of the symbols represents shelter and protection where my family is. There's another one that is a centipede that represents difficulties in life and endurance. Another symbol that represents the sea or the ocean. Another line for the spiritual path. Family protection from enemies and strength. It was really interesting when like my artist broke down the meanings of the symbols and he got to the one that said like spiritual path. I honestly was like a little taken aback because I didn't know what that meant. Like he was like, this represents your spiritual path or your spiritual journey. I just kind of looked at him like, I don't know what that means. And lo and behold, a year later, I would transition to vegan and go on a very deep spiritual journey. And I'm still on that journey right now. So that felt like foreshadowing for me. It felt like a real full circle moment. The tattoo took 45 minutes. And as I said, it was the most painful experience of my life, but also one of the most gratifying. And to this day, I love it. This is the tattoo here. Another thing that was really beautiful about Samoa was that everything was a sacred ceremony. So like in Samoa and even throughout the Pacific Islands, there is something called kava, or known as ava, and it's a deeply significant ritualistic drink. It's an herb that is served in ceremony, specifically when you're just bonding or whenever there's like weddings or introductions to people. So when we came as students, we were introduced by the chiefs and we were all drinking kava ceremonially. So it was really beautiful to be welcomed in that way. And the same thing happened in Hawaii when we were there. The same thing happened in Fiji. It's a cultural tradition, and that was really cool because it felt like a really nice way to be welcomed into like the culture. Kava served in a coconut shell, and it's like drank out of a communal bowl, which is called the tanoa, and it's based on ranking as well. So like depending on your rank, you drink first and then everyone else will drink after that. It's also psychoactive, so it has a sedative effect to it, but it's safe to drink. Like you feel like a numbing sensation. Another really cool thing about Samoan culture was that funerals were considered celebration. To be in a country where a funeral is actually a party, that was very different. So someone in my homestay family did pass away, and I was able to attend a funeral, which was really beautiful to see how people grieve in Samoa. Another thing that I learned from my time in Samoa, and specifically being in the Pacific Islands, was island time. Like I was not used to that. I didn't grow up in an island. I grew up in one of the fastest paced cities in the world. So to go from a super fast paced city to then a super slow, mellow, chill, very lax island, it was definitely an adjustment, but it really helped me to slow down and like regulate my nervous system. And now I actually love moving slowly. I don't like to rush anymore, and I really like to just take my time and really enjoy the present moment. There was a time where women were at the top in society in Samoa and like the Pacific Islands, and the missionaries came and that kind of changed, which I thought was very interesting. Today, Christianity is actually very important to the Samoan people. There's huge churches, and like the churches are gorgeous, and they do put a lot of money into those churches. Like the local people, they donate a lot of money to the church. Yeah, it was just like really interesting to see how that was like, you know, played out there. Here's the last thing that I'll say about Samoa, because I feel like I've been talking about Samoa for a long time, and I do need to touch on Fiji and Australia. But I had a lot of synchronicities that proved that I was meant to go on this journey and that I was meant to study abroad here in this beautiful place. So I actually had no idea that right above Samoa there's a set of islands called the Phoenix Islands. I just found this out about like maybe a year ago or two. And it's just so wild because I wasn't born under the name Phoenix. I was given the name Phoenix by my ancestors and my higher self. So it's crazy how, you know, I was already like living out a prophecy almost by doing this thing that I was so afraid to do. I felt like going there and living there for 4 months felt like an initiation, like a reset. a spiritual reset and the beginning of my spiritual journey, and the phoenix has followed me throughout my life, and I didn't even realize it up until more recently. So it's almost like a full circle moment of like, wow, like my spirit guide of the phoenix, or like the energy of the phoenix was just like always there, and that I was protected by the phoenix too, because I was so scared to go there, guys. Like, you don't understand, I was terrified, but I still went and I pushed past. And like, that's what I want people to take away from this, is that you got to do the thing that you're afraid to do. You have to push past. Fear is an illusion. You cannot live in this energy of fear your whole life, because fear is going to prevent you from having amazing experiences. Where would I be if I was afraid and I never got on that plane? I would probably have never left the country in my life, and I wouldn't have all these amazing stories to tell. And because I chose to push past fear, I went to 5 continents and 22 countries, and I'm still going. I still have more to see. So I'm thankful to my higher self and the version of me that was willing to push through the fear. The other beautiful thing too is that I don't know if you're like into astrology, but there is something called astrogeography. And according to my astrogeography, I actually have an astral line going through Samoa and the Pacific Islands. So it's further confirmation. You can use astrology to determine where in the world you would have certain blessings, whether through career, through love, through business, or just home life in general. You can actually look these things up, and I usually look these things up after I go visit a place to confirm whether or not what I learned from that place was backed by astrology. And I've done this across every country that I've been to. There's always been some type of astrological connection. So that's really cool. And if you're interested in that, comment below or reach out to me, and I can actually give you a reading, because it's actually very helpful. So now that I've explained everything about Samoa, I just want to like say these closing statements. Samoa completely changed my life, and I will always love the people. I will always love the culture. I did have some challenging experiences there, but I didn't hold that against the country. Like, I will never hate a country based on what happens there. Samoa overall was a great place. I really enjoyed being there. I learned a lot, and by the time like the program was over, I saw that part of the world. But I did also spend 4 days in Fiji, and I want to touch on Fiji a little bit because I feel like there are a lot of misconceptions about Fiji. It's luxurious, right? That's where a lot of people go for like vacation, and you know, tourists go there a lot. But I was not in that part of Fiji. I was in, still wanted to still be in I think it was called Nadi Fiji. So I was more so with the local people. I was with a Indo-Fijian family, and so I just want to like explain a little bit about like that experience. But Fiji, basically, I traveled to Fiji during a cyclone, okay, like not a hurricane, a cyclone. And it was really terrifying because we got on the plane and I'm like, okay, we're traveling during a cyclone, whatever, I'm not gonna think too much of it. And there was one point where the plane just dropped like by a bunch, like I don't know how many feet, but it dropped. And I just know my laptop flew up in the air, and my roommate's cup flew up in the air. Like, it was crazy, and I was so scared. I went right into prayer. I was like, oh my God, this is OD. And we landed safely, thank goodness, but it was a really scary experience. But it was totally worth it, if I can say that. But like, I was with the Indo-Fijian family for 4 days, and I got to learn like their cultural values, and I learned to cook with them. There was a whole blackout. Like, I had to take like a bucket bath. It was a lot, but it was humbling, you know, because it made me think about how privileged I was. Even as someone from the Bronx, like, I still had access to water. And like, I did have to boil water when I was in the Bronx growing up. Like, don't get it twisted. Like, I ain't always have heat, but it was like I always had light though, you know. So it's like sometimes you got to take the good with the bad and the bad with the good, because you know, somebody always is struggling out there, and you just never know. Like, sometimes you just gotta appreciate your own struggles. I just want to talk a little bit about Indo-Fijians, because you're probably thinking like, Indo-Fijians, what is that? But basically, Indo-Fijians are Fijian people who are also Indian. And so because the British colonial rulers brought hundreds and thousands of indentured laborers from India to Fiji to work on the sugar plantations back in like the 1800s, it created a large population of South Asian people in the islands. They're Hindu, so I learned a lot about Hinduism out there as well. I visited some temples. It was not the typical, like, stereotypical paradise that I was expecting, you know, and I think that was cool that I got to see the other side of Fiji, because most people never do get to see that, you know. It was really, really humbling. Another cool thing was that, like, I was in like a town that had a lot of sand dunes, and sand dunes are really beautiful. Like, I literally had never been in a sand dune before, but it was a lot of lush mountains and just like sand dunes, and I have like an obsession with sand. Last but not least, after my study abroad program was over, I still had this desire to travel. So I ended up going to Australia. That was like my second continent. So I'm gonna read another journal entry. I think learning to enjoy life as it stands is really key. I want to go to Australia in hopes of being more comfortable with being alone and also get to know myself. Tomorrow I'm going to finalize everything and just go clear my head a bit before coming back to the States and having to deal with all the bullshit I have back in the Bronx. Before I face my country again, I want to be well prepared for how I plan to behave as I re-enter the country. Will I continue to perpetuate stereotypes, or should I go back to doing the same things that make me feel good when in reality I'm just looking to fill a void that I can't explain? So I ended my time in the Pacific Islands in Australia. I decided to go there by myself. I was so scared. Australia is a huge continent. I was in Sydney and I was terrified. Just looking at the map by itself, I was like, yo, what if I get kidnapped? Like, I could get lost, and like, what am I gonna do? You know, like, it was really, really scary. So I ended up staying at a hostel for 5 days. But the first day that I was there, I didn't leave the hostel. I was so scared that I just stayed in my room, like, contemplating like why I made the decision to go there, like, by myself. Like, I was that type of person that I would be afraid and I would still do the thing that was scary. And I really hope that that like inspires someone, because look at me now, like, I've been everywhere, you know. I don't have that fear anymore. Like, I really overcame it. But going to Australia was great because I was really interested in like wildlife. So I did visit a lot of the sanctuaries out there, and I got to interact with the kangaroos and see some really incredible animals. I saw some koalas. I saw like these giant alligators, all these beautiful different snakes. It was a really great experience, and I really enjoyed connecting with the wildlife there. I think Australia is where I developed my passion for wildlife, and it's so ironic because I ended up eating a kangaroo out there. I'm not proud of that, you know. As a vegan, looking back, I'm like, why did I do that? But that was like the old me, you know. Like, I would never do that now. Obviously, I love animals way too much, but back then, you know, people do eat kangaroo there, you know. It's not like an uncommon thing. They sell them in the supermarket. So I was like, you know what, let me try it. And it was just not good. Like, it really just tastes like rubber. Like, I seasoned it and it still didn't taste good. I was like, okay, let me read this journal entry. This is from May 14th, 2016. Today I arrived in Australia completely and utterly exhausted and confused. Things are so different here, and I commend myself for being brave enough to come out here alone and try to explore and meet people. I want to make the most of my time here, and I don't want to be trapped in the room. Tomorrow I plan to start fresh. The sun sets at 5 p.m, so I'm gonna try and do the most that I can tomorrow. I want to learn about Australia, so I think I'll go on a tour Wednesday or Tuesday, even Monday. That way I can navigate the rest of the week. I got my own room for now, which is great. I hope it stays that way. I enjoy me time. I think I'm doing the right thing, even if it feels uncomfortable. I really am trying. I'm excited for tomorrow now. Off to bed I go. Yeah, Australia was really, really interesting because, as you can see, I was scared. Like, I was scared. Like, I didn't know what I was doing, but I was really trying to, like, I took the concept of be comfortable with the uncomfortable and I ran with it. Like, I really wanted to push myself to certain limits, and I'm glad that I did, because now I can go anywhere and I'm not scared whatsoever. Like, I literally will just feel an inclination to go to a country, I'll do a bit of research and then I'll go. Like, I'm just going. All of that to wrap up. I know that was a lot of information. If you're still watching at this point, thank you so much. Like, it means so much to me that you're engaging with this video. I put a lot of time into planning this out, and I know it's probably not perfect, but I still wanted to put out something. I had to just share this experience and let people know that travel is possible. You have access to this. If this is your dream, it can happen, and I want you to understand, like, it can happen for you, and where there's a will, there's a way. All right, so who am I now, right? Like, the girl who left the Bronx 10 years ago. She wasn't vegan, she wasn't really spiritual, she was just a girl who wanted to get away from her toxic family. Who is Phoenix now? I am a nomad. I am living in New York right now. I'm exactly where I need to be. I'm where my ancestors want me, and I am looking forward to producing more content and catching you guys up on the past 10 years that I've been traveling. So the next episode will be all about the next country that I visited. So my next video is Canada, and I did visit Canada more than once, so the video will be a combination of all the times that I've been there, and then we will keep going down the list in chronological order of all the places that I've been. Travel has been my escape, and for my whole life I've been like running from my trauma, and it eventually caught up to me. And now I've been living in New York for the past 3 years, healing and integrating all of the lessons that I've learned from my life. And there were moments in Samoa where I would get really drunk. I remember there was this one time in Samoa I got so drunk I slept in my own vomit, and I remember I blacked out. Like, I was blacking out in college. I was really not doing well, and I thought that I was just having fun, but looking back I was suppressing traumas that really needed to be addressed and faced. And I feel like travel really helped to open me up to that, and you know, especially solo travel. But now as a grown adult, with more life experience than probably the average person, because I've done so much, and that's not an attack on anybody, like I've really just been through a lot, but travel is not an escape for me anymore. That's the main takeaway. It's a tool for me to explore myself and for healing. And something that I really want people to understand is that we always know what we need to know when we need to know it. There's things that if I had known before going to Samoa, I wouldn't have like become the well-rounded person that I am. Like, you can't go into every situation knowing everything that you need to know. There's beauty in the unknown, and it's scary because you want as much information as possible because it will make you feel safe. But sometimes that unknown and the mystery is what adds to the fulfillment. It's what adds to the actual journey, the not knowing, the mystery of it all, the ambiguity of it all. And leaning into that is what has really helped me to grow spiritually on my path. And some situations require you to be naive and to be unwise and to make stupid decisions. And this series is all about the stupid decisions that I made. This is just an overview, but as we get more into my travels in every country, you'll see. And once I start traveling again, I want to take you all on a journey of what I'm doing in real time, right? I've been to 5 continents. When it's time for continent number 6, I want all of you guys to be traveling with me. That's all I really have to say. I feel like I could keep talking on and on and on and on and on, but I really am thankful that you guys engaged with me and that you chose to click on this video and watch it. I'm really thankful. I'm really thankful that I've had the opportunity to travel, and I can't say it many times. Like, I just feel like when I think about my greatest accomplishment, it is doing this. It is literally being a girl who was born into the slums of the Bronx and has seen the most beautiful places on the planet. It's like, I'll sit there and be like, girl, look what you did. Like, look what you created for yourself. Like, look at the life that you've lived. And always remember that you are remarkable. And you know, this series is like a love letter to myself. Checked baggage is all about checking the baggage, taking it with you wherever you go, and unpacking it when you get there. And I pray that this video has inspired you in some way to rise out of your circumstances. Sometimes it's that one decision that you're hesitating on that is the one decision you need to make. So with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you subscribe and stay tuned for my next episode, which will be dropping very soon, all about Canada and my experiences there. All right, until next time, keep healing, keep thriving, keep rising, and I'll see you guys next time.